Hello and welcome to episode 3, and coincidentally enough, the third day of the day in horror film, SpookyCast. It is your host, Pat Nader, as always, and we are just going to jump feet first into the movie today on October 3rd, 2024, which is a Thursday. I watched Creep 2, directed by Patrick Brice. This is a sequel to the original Creep, which I watched around this time actually last year. For my October horror movies thing, and I gotta say, the more I think about Creep, the more iffy I feel about it. I gave it a 6 at the time. It is a I don't know if you'd call it found footage. It's a handheld horror movie. It follows a very odd fellow, one very odd Aaron character, and it just follows his exploits and the process he goes through before he kills his victim, which is what he ends up doing in the original. And that movie is a lot more focused on the horror aspects. It's a lot of jump scares. There's just not a lot of interesting stuff because the main character is just such a slab of wood. It really doesn't feel like he's allowed to do anything, which I'm not a huge fan of. He's just a very stupid, boring character. And Creep 2, which is the movie I actually watched, does a very good job at changing that. To summarize the plot of Creep 2, it follows one web series host named Sarah, trying to dig deep into a now older Aaron's mind to figure out, because he's a lot more talkative in this movie and more self-reflective on his life as a serial killer. And it's nice to see Sarah in so many scenes so directly push back against him, where he might think that, or against like Alex, which I think is the last guy, or his last victim's name, where as in those instances, it feels a lot more like he's in control. In this movie, he definitely gives up control a lot more to Sarah, which makes for some really interesting interactions. It's filmmaking style. I mean, there isn't really one to talk about too much. It's a handheld movie. Outside of those handheld shots, there isn't really much of anything. But for the most part, the movie does make the handheld camcorder style look pretty good. The music, or what music there is okay. I think the Sarah Loves Her Juicy Fruit track, which ties into the story, is actually quite the unique piece of music. It's definitely not good, but it fits the film pretty well. I think what makes this film... I think this film is equally as good as the first one for a lot of different reasons. What makes this film so interesting is that at moments you can forget that it's a horror film, because the level of comfort that Aaron clearly gets to around Sarah near the end of the movie, I won't spoil it too much, but asking her to participate in an activity, I should say. Seeing that pushback kind of change who he is, or at least the character that you knew in the original, is really cool. And it does a lot for the film's unique flavor as compared to the original. The last thing I wanted was a Creep remake, or a Creep sequel, or a direct Creep sequel. This movie feels very different, which I'm a very big fan of. Outside of that, though, there's not much to talk about with Creep. I know this is a really short video. The dialogue is pretty well written. It flows pretty naturally. The actor that plays Aaron, Mark Duplass, is very talented, and he gives a lot of life to the movie. Not to say that Sarah's actress, Desire Akhavan, forgive me for my pronunciation. Not to say she isn't good. She's definitely a lot more interesting than Alex of the last movie, but it's a lot more back and forth in this movie, which I'm very big on. And even though I don't think the movie is very scary myself, I think Mark Duplass and Patrick Brice, I don't know who plays who, but whoever plays Aaron for majority of the film, I think they do a very good job at making this character intimidating, not exactly scary, but at least intimidating. I don't have a lot to say. Creep is a hard movie to talk about because it's so just like odd. Again, the dialogue flows really well. It feels really natural. I really like that. But besides that, I don't have much more to say. 6 out of 10. It's a good movie. With all that out of the way, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the cemetery. Mwah!